Welcome into Deep Waters here on ProBox TV. Well, the water's getting a lot deeper. That's right, August 3rd. It is coming up. Turkey Al-Sheikh's big card in Los Angeles featuring Terence Crawford versus Israil Madrimov. That is your main event, but this card itself stacked from top to bottom. We will talk about today, of course, not just the fight itself, but this moment in boxing history. To help me break it down, Jimmy Smith in studio with Paulie Malignaggi, Chris Algieri, joining us via Zoom, ESPN boxing analyst Timothy Bradley. Gentlemen, we grew up in an era where boxing was a spectacle. 80s, 90s, great fights were the norm. Big pay-per-views were the norm. The spectacle of this fight. Paulie, what does it mean for boxing that this comes off big? Big event, big hype, big everything. What's your thought on it?
I'll tell you what, I think the push and the promotion behind shows like this really should be of a high level, because if you look at what Riyadh season has done throughout, there has been an average of 2 to 3 upsets, odds makers upsets per show, right? So it's really the kind of matchups that we're finally getting, that it's going back to the throwback, back to the kind of throwback situation. For a while, we weren't getting these kind of matchups, and you still, in a lot of promotions, get like a 1 versus 5 matchup instead of these 1 versus 2 matchups, or these matchups where you're like, even 5 versus 6. Just matchups where it's like high risk for both guys. And you can kind of tell in this environment of boxing that we've created, the odds makers are confused, bro. We've bamboozled the odds makers because they don't know how to make odds for these fights. We have had a lot of upsets on Riyadh season, and it's sort of trickling into the outer layer because this past weekend, Joyce and Chisora was not on Riyadh season. And now it's starting to, by osmosis, other promoters may start to grasp onto these kind of matchups because you've got to compete with what they're doing. So in order to compete, you got to give fans the fights they want. We're starting to see it more and more. I love this card. I'm excited for it. I've been loving all these matchups so far on Riyadh season.
All right, Riyadh season. Interesting point. This is in Los Angeles, California, getting out of Saudi Arabia, out of the confines. What are your thoughts on that, Chris? This idea that does that concept, does that big show feel kind of translate in the U.S.? How important is it?
Well, it's going to have to, and I think these guys are going to roll out all those stops to make sure that this card is something special. First off, just like you said, Champ, the matchups top to bottom, it's a great card. Fantastic card. One that we've been excited for months. Even though one of the best fights on the card, the Tim Tszyu versus Virgil Ortiz fight, fell off, it's still a great card top to bottom. Still excited for it.
Right? I forgot that fight fell out.
That fight fell out.
That was unbelievable.
We still have a good card. And I think everything around that fight is going to be really cool. It's going to be really fun. It's bringing a lot of the promoters and promotions together, which I think is really great. And just like Turkey Al-Sheikh, basically, he said this from the beginning. He wants to compete in the method that UFC does. Top to bottom cards that you want to sit there and watch fights all day long. You don't want to just tune in for the main event. You want to watch all the fights on the card. And I think this is another one of those cards. But I'm looking forward to what fight week is going to look like. There's a bunch of things, grand arrivals, media workouts. You've got all the luminaries out. So it's really making this the Riyadh season. I love that idea. It's a season of big fights and big events. And this is just another one. And we're doing it on U.S. soil.
Tim, I got to ask you, is this a test, of course, of the crossover ability of Terence Crawford? He's a pound-for-pound best of this generation, arguably, but is he that crossover Wheaties box kind of superstar that can drive a promoter's card like it did the 80s with, let's say, Sugar Ray Leonard? Is he that kind of crossover star?
Absolutely not. Let me just I'm going to be a buck with it. If you pay attention to the ticket sales, they're not doing that hot. I was just in LA calling the Chisora fight. I asked a couple of guys there, local promoters there, and they said, no, the tickets are not really selling out there because, although Terrence is a tremendous fighter, he still haven't reached that superstardom just yet. Not just yet. Remember, the last time he fought was about a year ago. I don't think he took full advantage of that, what he was able to generate then. If he would have fought a little bit sooner, maybe he could have, maybe sold out this place. However, they got guys underneath them that's trying to help sell. I would go back to the last few shows that we had, and we were talking about Pitbull Cruz, that he brings a lot of eyes, and he's the one that's selling. He can be selling this arena as well. He got Andrew Ruiz and other guys underneath as well, but still the tickets are not, they're not selling. They're just not are. It's nothing against Crawford. He's a East Coast guy or Midwest guy, coming out to the West Coast. But if you are a crossover superstar, you're able to sell anywhere. It doesn't matter where you go in the States. What could have helped is the location. LA, California, it's, a lot of promoters don't like to do business here in California. Everything is expensive. Taxes are extremely high. Why not do a fight like this or a card like this in Las Vegas? Now, the fans, that gives them incentive to want to go and be able to gamble. Hotels are a lot cheaper there in Vegas as well. You have the entertainment as well there down. It's so much more to do in Vegas, and fans will make a trip out of it and go watch a Terence Crawford fight. I remember seeing him when he fought against it was Sean Porter. Sold out arena with Sean Porter. So yes, Crawford, he is a draw, a solid draw, but not here on the West Coast, man.
Is that one of the questions we have, Paulie? When His Excellency Turki Al-Sheikh comes to LA, does he get the nuances of usually? First thing I thought as a native of Southern California, it's like, oh, you got to have a Mexican main event. You got to have a Mexican fighter. That's just something that is automatic. La Raza, they buy tickets in LA. If you're from Saudi Arabia, you might not necessarily know that. That idea of a traveling fan base, how important is it, Paulie?
I think it's very, very important. First of all, I don't know that Turkish Al-Sheikh even really cares. He might just be wanting to make these kind of dream matchups, these fantasy matchups in some ways. I love this card, top to bottom, as far as the matchups are concerned. I'm going to touch on a couple of things here. First, with Tim, the champ, you just said a lot of great points here. And here's the thing. With boxing, and in general, with television in general, there is that it factor that gives somebody that little bit of extra promotability. You either have it or you don't. It's not something that you can teach. It's not something that can be shown. And sometimes guys have it and it's not promoted in them. Bro, I'll be straight up honest with you. What do you call it? The opposite of self-deprecating. I felt like I had it. I just didn't feel like I never got promoted right. I felt like I had that it factor.
Great self-promoter is our man.
No, but honestly, I'll be honest. I remember. I'll give you a little story, just because I don't want to take up all the time. But let me just give me a minute. I can remember trying out for the Contender show. Remember the reality show? The first season, it was like big because they had in-the-ring sparring sessions in the first season. So it was basically like outtakes, American Idol style outtakes. Guys who thought they could fight were getting in the ring, and it was a whole mess, and it was great, But then there were guys who actually could fight, So if you qualified for the sparring session and you look good, you would go downstairs for the interview. And it was like a multi-city tryout, just like American Idol. The main NBC network had it. I can remember going downstairs for the interview, and the girl who was interviewing me was just smitten with me, just like the things I was saying. I was talking in third person. I was 23 years old at that time. I was nuts. So I remember.
Don't use the past tense, Paulie, but go ahead.
Yeah, I was talking in past tense. Yeah. So I remember, anyway, they didn't work out. They wanted me real bad. It didn't work out with my promoter. They couldn't cut a deal with my promoter at the time, so it didn't work out. Make a long story short. Years later, when I lived in LA, I met up with this girl, and we had lunch together. And she was talking to me about some things about the shows. She was the talent talent scout for a lot of reality shows, not just Contender. And she said, boxing's weird. She's like, there's not a lot of characters in boxing that do that have that kind of creativity, that it factor. She told me, a lot of times people will ask me, how do you see that it factor? And she goes, I really don't know. It's either I can tell, it's somebody either has it or they don't. It's not really something that I'm looking for. Something you have. And she goes to me, in all the interviews I did in all 4 seasons of Contender, I only found 2 guys that I really felt super strongly about when I interviewed them. And I said, who were those guys? She goes, you and Alan Green. Remember Alan Green, the super middleweight? Yeah. She goes, you and Alan Green for me were like top notch as far as the it factor that just was oozing out of you when you got in the room. And I was like, yeah, well, what did boxing do with me and Alan Green? Constant B-sides. Nice job, boxing. Nice job. That's why you got no stars. So here's the thing. I'm jumping on this now. Crawford is an excellent fighter. One of the best fighters in the history of this sport. He's going to go down as. But the it factor, he's so, maybe he's in the gym all the time. He's for all intents and purposes, he's a cool guy. He's fun to be around, and from what I hear from a lot of people, anytime I've been around him, no problem with him. I love Terence Crawford. But that you need to have a little bit of it. And I'll give you an example. That wrestling, he made an appearance on WWE. I saw the clip. I'm looking at it, and I'm like, man, there are so many opportunities to do so much different on that clip. You could play that in so many ways. And I'm looking at it, and it looked awkward to me. But again, you need to capture the moment. There are moments you need to capture. In the ring, Terence is a specialist at capturing the moment. He is one of the best fighters that's ever laced on a pair of boxing gloves. But outside the ring, it can't be taught. You got to understand how to capture the moment outside the ring. And most guys don't have that. It's just the way it is.
And Paulie, can I just add real quick? You got to think about the opponent as well that he's facing. A Middle Eastern guy. Nobody knows who he is. You know, he has 11 fights, so no one's really seen this guy fight. You know, I mean, when I heard the fight was announced, I had to go and research the guy.
But Tim,
That has something to do with this as well. So like sometimes you need a talent,
Tim,
right? And you need a dancing partner.
He's been around long enough, though, Tim. He's been around long enough. With Sugar Ray Leonard, I can remember the legendary nights with Sugar Ray Leonard when they were talking about Leonard and Hearns. They were talking about who was the superstar Leonard coming up, and then the Hearns monster coming up on from the other angle, where it's like the elephant in the room was this big puncher and Hearns coming up from Detroit. And it was like with Leonard, it was like some guys got a wink, some guys got a wink and a smile. You know, some guys got a smile. Ray Leonard had the wink and a smile. He just knew when to give it to you and how to give it to you. Bro, Ray Leonard, I know it's different times, but Ray Leonard could have fought the Uber driver and it would have been sold out. Ray Leonard was fighting a foreign guy named Davey Boy Green at a time where there was no internet.
In LA, too.
And he was selling out. Yeah. So Crawford has been around long enough. It's not like, and that was Ray Leonard who was early in his championship run. This is Crawford at the end of his career when he's accomplished so much and should be so much well-known, to the point where it doesn't matter who he's fighting. Canelo can choose to fight Uber drivers because he's so well-known regardless of where he fights and who he fights. Crawford is still fighting. He's not fighting an Uber driver. Crawford is fighting a very difficult opponent. Regardless of that he's not known, this fight should be selling better. Again, I'm not even knocking Crawford for it, man, because I don't even think that can be taught. As boxing fans, we appreciate Crawford for the greatness we're watching. I don't knock that, but there's a way to promote these kind of shows as well. These big shows, I personally love them, right? But your average boxing fan has the attention span maybe 2-3 hours at most. So these huge long shows, you can make 2-3 shows out of them, back to back weeks. You might sell them better. Who knows? Maybe these shows are too long and people can't really get into them. The attention span of the modern human being is borderline moronic, you know. So to not use another word. So you know, I think there's, as much as I personally love Riyadh season, I think maybe you could make some adjustments to where people can be more attracted to it just from an understanding point of view. Again, I personally love it, but I want it to sell better as well, and maybe shortening up these shows instead of making one giant 8-hour marathon, and you do like 2-3 different shows out of it, you know, and back-to-back weeks. Who knows?
You know, Eddie Hearn, of course, and Terence Crawford had a little bit of exchange to maybe hype the fight. Got a little awkward. Here it is.
You still owe me £700 hotel bill in Scotland.
I didn't even knew that in there.
Yeah,
what we doing?
I don't remember.
From where?
Don't remember. I remember.
From where? I didn't eat y'all food. I didn't order nothing. I didn't go nowhere.
Breakfast to the room.
Michelle, did we charge anything?
Yeah.
We didn't charge anything.
I remember. It's painful. Right. Crawford, Team Madrimov.
Right. I don't see no blood going down my jaw. And I got your money in my pocket.
Exactly.
Take it.
Yeah.
What are you talking about?
You said I owe you, take it.
Exactly.
Yeah, and guess what?
He's gonna take it.
And guess what?
He's gonna take it.
They ain't even gonna help you.
He's gonna take it.
They ain't even gonna help you.
He'll take it.
They ain't even gonna help
He's
you.
gonna take it on Saturday.
Let's see. Hey, the people that you with ain't even gonna help you.
Who?
We gonna all pummel you.
I don't give a fuck.
Pummel you. And you gonna be like, police.
Listen, you used to be like that. Now you've got money. You've gone soft. Right. Come on.
Hey, money and kids. Don't forget my kids, man.
What he said, by the way, that barely caught on camera was, look at those shoes. You're not about that life anymore. You're not a
You know
gangster.
what?
I like that.
But I like how Terence also mentioned his kids. He's like, yeah, it's the money, but it's my kids too. You know? Hey, listen, man. I mean, being a father will change a lot of guys.
No,
you know?
Chris, you know, funny little back and forth.
Yeah.
I like how Eddie Hearn didn't back down. And was thinking not about
and
that.
I like how he made it comical too, because that could have went Ari real quick, right? Is that
Well,
the
you
right
could
word?
you could see Eddie got a little bit. What are you talking about? He's
like,
trying to figure out. Like, are you serious? Is he serious? Is he? I mean, he probably does with the money in his pocket, but like, he's not trying to get it. But I like what he said. Also, he's like, and none of them are gonna help you. Nobody's gonna help you. We're gonna run you, beat you up. Nobody's gonna help you. He's probably right.
So, what is your thought, Tim?
But it's not about that life.
Not about that life. The side we're not touching on.
When he got called out, he was like, yeah,
you're right. I'm not. Madrimov is about that life. An important thing about that back and forth is you're not hungry anymore. You don't want this like you did when there's a little bit of you're not about that life anymore. Do you think Madrimov, 11 fights, do you think he's a little hungrier? If we're talking about hunger in the fight, Tim, what do you think of that?
Nah. When you at the absolute best and you're Terence Crawford, hunger. That dude is the most competitive guy that I've ever met. The only other guy that I know that is competitive as him is Andre Ward. Those two guys, ultimate competitors. And then right below them, I would say it might be Shakur Stevenson, another competitive guy.
Mayweather was like that too.
Mayweather's the same way. I mean, dude, you don't have to do anything to
Leonard. We mentioned Leonard before. Leonard's super competitive.
These guys motivate themselves. Yeah. You know, at the end of the day, they motivate. But this is the personality that we want to see from Terence Crawford. You know, beforehand, I know when he was at Top Rank, he didn't really, he did a little bit of promotion, but didn't really promote himself the way he's doing now, or way he's having to do it now. But that personality right there, that character right there, shining through on camera right there, that is the real Terence Crawford right there. He likes to have a good time. He's joking around, back and forth. You see his character. You see how he behaves, man. That is him. And if we can get more of that,
But he wasn't promoting there. He was being himself. And I think somebody just caught that on camera.
But to Tim's point, though, exactly, Tim, like that's who he is, and it shines through in the moments because the cameras are on him. But to your point that you made earlier, he took a year off of that Spence fight where the public did not get to see him. You know what he was doing in that year? Training. He was in the gym. He was helping his other guys, helping his teammates, staying in the gym, living in the gym. Yeah, he had his little bit of tour. He bounced around a little bit for a couple months after the fight for a little bit. But then he got back in the gym. And we missed all of that opportunity to see that character that you just mentioned shine through. This guy needs to be active. He's the best fighter in the world, and he's not fighting enough. We need to see him. He's not the kind of guy, he's not Ryan Garcia. Ryan doesn't need to fight, and you see him on camera every damn weekend. He showed up at a Pacquiao fight this weekend just to be there in Japan.
In Japan?
In Japan.
Yeah, a rising card.
He's in the ring after the fight. See, Terence isn't
in the ring,
guy.
too.
Yeah. Terence is going to be the guy who's going to be in the gym. He's working in silence. That's the problem. Our best fighters, because our sport's so difficult, you have to put so much of your life, so much of your time into it. You don't have time for that self-promotion. If you're going to be the very best, if you're going to be the Michael Jordan of boxing,
you're also not going to be a star.
You're living in the gym, but you're not going to have that star quality where you're going to just be able to put it on and show up here and go there. Ryan's the opposite. Ryan's got good talent, but he's got all the time and the opportunity to go to all these places, travel, meet people, be on camera, get arrested, whatever.
When you talk about bringing people together, another person bringing people together, Turki Al-Ashik, kind of bringing the 5 families of boxing together. We saw on social media, hanging out with Oscar De La Hoya, talk about this. Kind of, only way to say it is bringing the 5 families to maybe negotiate together and get big fights. Promotionally, what are you looking forward to with these steps, Paul?
So are you saying Turki Al-Ashik is the capo di tutti capi?
It's what it seems like. Look, you're the Sicilian.
He's bringing them all together. He's bringing them all at a sit-down for a negotiation.
Exactly. It's what it seems like, right?
I like it. I think there's the potential there. I think if there was one of the goals Turki Al-Ashik has in his mind, it's probably that. But I still think, as excited as he is, and as excited as we get, we're hardcores. If you want to track more casuals, because these kind of cards, for me, are not being appreciated as much as they should be, because really only the hardcores follow boxing at this point. The casuals, unless there's a superstar crossover star, and a lot of times those crossover stars are not the best. As much as you say, Canelo's not even the best in his own weight class. Ryan Garcia is not the best in his own weight class, but they're stars. So if you want to attract those casuals to where these great fight cards are made, and not just with crossover stars, the best fighters in the sport, I think he's going to need a little bit of guidance as well. I think he's a guy who has the best intentions in mind. And again, I'll take it all day long. But I think if we're going to attract more fans into it to make them understand that these are actually the best fight cards, not Ryan Garcia versus whoever, not Canelo versus whoever. These are the best fight cards because they are the best matchups.
I'm going to push back a little bit because of the topic that Jimmy brought up at all the promotions. Guess who we get now? 5-on-5s. All of them. All the promoters can now do 5-on-5s. And those are going to track a lot of people, even the casual boxing fans, because those are great cards. And you get that competitive nature to it.
Can I push back one more?
Yeah, of course. This is why we're here.
5-on-5, again, the attention span isn't there. Especially if you're trying to attract casuals.
I don't know, that first card did great.
I love it. We're hardcores, though. I'm talking about if we're going to attract
that card
more fans.
did well.
But here's the thing. On Saturday afternoons, they never do well in America. You know what I mean? Because they're competing against college football and everything else. If you're going to do it on Saturday night, and again, Dude, I'll do 10 on 10. For me, I'm a huge boxing fan. It doesn't matter. I'm not talking about us. I'm talking about if we're going to attract in the casuals. They have no attention span to begin with. So how are they going to sit through a new sport with their casuals and watch 5 super fights in a row? They can't. They don't have the boxing intelligence, boxing IQ to appreciate it.
But also,
but
we live in a VOD era. Video on demand. You don't have to watch everything live. You can always go back and watch.
Dude, super fights are great live.
It's a super fight.
Make it 3 versus 3.
Boxing, guys. There's not enough superstars in boxing. There's not enough big fights
But
left.
you can't, go Tim.
Tell me another big fight. Let me hold on, Polly.
Before you go, shoot.
You got Better Biev and Bivol. That's the next best fight. After that, what do we have to depend on? I mean, you got Fury versus Usyk. That happened. We're gonna get the double. We're gonna get 2 of those.
Joshua Dubois in September. It's gonna be a big card over there.
Well, yeah, huge card over
there.
But I'm talking about in America. There's not a lot of big stars here in America, guys. So, you're talking about the casuals tuning in. Yeah, that's great. The boxing fans getting a treat. That's what it is. The true diehard boxing fans. These cards is for the boxing fans. These 50-50 matchups is for the boxing fans.
But guys, but you understand, that's the future, though. Those are the future. So guys are going to come out of these fights, out of these cards that maybe us hardcores are watching. Tim, but what do we need for stars to develop? We talked about Terence Crawford not being busy and that hurting his star status. Well, it goes the other way, too. Guys who are not staying active can't be stars. Yeah. Virgil Ortiz can't be a star if he fights once or twice a year. He needs to fight 3-4 times a year. With a guy like Turki Al-Sheikh putting on these many cards, you're getting that opportunity. The heavyweight division was resurged by this man because he put on these cards. We now have a thriving heavyweight division, which we haven't had for 3 years, because he's able to put these cards on. You got guys losing in December and coming back in May. That never happens in heavyweight.
Jarrell Miller, right?
No. Exactly.
But and I'm gonna. We're all going glass half full here. Allow me to be the pessimist for a second. Let me do that. I'm pessimist.
He kind of started pessimistic.
Pessimist Paulie. Again, and I've talked about all the positivity.
Paulie pessimism.
The Paulie pessimism moment is this. Our biggest stars in boxing in America. Tim, you were saying, over there, they're more famous. But maybe, actually, no, it's not a maybe. It's probably a definitively. Probably, the fight fans over there are smarter than the fight fans over here because their biggest stars are guys that are going to fill up Wembley Stadium for Joshua versus Dubois, which is an excellent fight, even if it's over there and not here. Who are the guys filling up the biggest arenas here? Ryan Garcia, Canelo Alvarez, and Jake Paul. Neither of those guys are the best guys in their own weight class. In their own weight class, let alone boxing.
Tank Davis sells.
Tank
sells.
Tank, it depends geographically where you're located. It depends geographically where you're located.
It used to be Spence. Spence used to sell.
Again, you got to geographically. No, PBC fighters don't sell like that, man. They end up giving away a lot of tickets a lot of times.
Spence and Dallas.
Tank, I've heard on the East Coast, especially that Northeast corridor, maybe into Atlanta, has a big following. But Tank, you got to mark him geographically.
But Tank pay-per-view numbers don't lie. He does numbers there too.
Yeah, of course.
He sells.
No.
Tank sells.
We have it, but again, they don't. Selling on pay-per-view and selling, dude, these guys, Jake, Ryan, and Canelo live do crazy atmospheres, okay? Yeah. The only thing to match that is fights in stadiums in England, where real fighters actually have those. And I'm not saying Canelo's not a real fighter. At one time, he was a real fighter. Now he does the retirement tour. Well, he keeps the belts hostage, so I don't count that. But in reality, we need more intelligent fight fans then as well to appreciate this better. I mean, the effort is being put there. Listen, Turki Al-Sheikh's making the effort. Again, I think it could be adjusted a little bit. Again, like I said before, the attention span isn't there for such large cards. But hey, man, you do a little bit this week and a little bit next week.
Well, he's actually doing a little bit on Friday and then on Saturday. He's got a fight. There's a card in Santa Monica, I believe.
Which card is that?
They got it's like some of the undercard fights. Yeah, it's got I think Mark Castro's the head of it, and that's similar. That's related to the card, I believe. Tim, did you hear about that?
Yeah, no, I didn't hear.
There's another couple fights that are going to occur.
It's Wednesday night.
So it's fight week. They're having another event earlier in the week.
You know what else is fight week?
You don't have a 13 fight card anymore. Now you got.
Yeah, but you know what else is fight week? Wednesday night fights on ProBox TV.
That's right, and that's where you're going to see us Wednesday night. But enjoy the fights this week, not just us on Wednesday, but obviously August 3rd, going to be a great card. Might be the future of boxing. Until then, enjoy it. We have been ProBox TV, Deep Waters. We'll see you next time.
Wednesday Night Fights.
Dynamite action on Wednesday Night Fights every other Wednesday on your boxing channel.
Coming up on your next Wednesday Night Fights, July 31st, ProBox veterans Alberto Palmetta and Jesus Sriracha return to battle it out in the main event. Live from the ProBox Event Center in Plant City. Get your tickets at proboxtv.com or take your chances at the door. Wednesday Night Fights.
For more ProBox TV, scan the QR code on the screen or go to the App Store and Google Play. ProBox TV, your boxing channel.